Hey guys, here we are going into the 12th round, and I think this round was much less close than the others in the fight, so we won't go over everything, but I will point out the majority of the great shots and look at the revision of game plans in this round compared to the others. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. So the final round, they're touching gloves. Cool. Glove comes out, trying to back Jacobs up, gets him to the ropes already. And look at how much more patient he is in the last round. He he's gonna he jabs right here, lands it, but he doesn't fall in like he's been doing. Uses a little patience. He even that jab right there, you know, he doesn't commit to it completely, and then he goes to control his head with his forearm right there a little bit, but Danny does wind up getting back into it. Right there again, not just falling out on his shots. Throws the right hand, right? Controls him with the other right hand. Find where he's punching. Bam, great shot. Roughing him up on the inside. Good job. And what the hell is Danny doing? Was that a punch? Was that a punch? I mean, maybe he got some of these ones. Like, that's kind of slapping. That was a good uppercut, but he's kind of landing with the thumb and the index finger for the punch, so it's still not even like a power shot, right? That's why at the end of the fight, Golovkin, you know, looks like he just got done weighing in, or getting ready for a weigh-in, and Danny looks like he got raked over the coals. So again, he jabs, uses his left to control Danny, makes him think that this is going to be a left hand, and then boom, comes with the right uppercut. We're going to look at it one more time in slow-mo so you can see a little better. So the jab, boom, dips down, touches him with the left, right? He made it look like he's going to throw a left uppercut, and then catches him with the right uppercut. Now, why wasn't Golovkin doing stuff like this in the last round, right? He kind of fought like, I'll call it an ABC game plan. And we'll talk a little bit about that at the end of the round. But just notice the stark contrast between this round and the previous two. Nothing really going on. Counters over his jab. Trying to push him back with some good right hand. How how does how has Danny not figured that out yet? Like all fight, he hasn't been able to time him, and he knows that Golovkin's gonna roll it. Again, Danny coming in off of the jab, doesn't get under his arm, but closes the distance, smothers him, and tries to show that he's not holding. But being bodied up like that is going to elicit the same response, and Golovkin responsibly throws a punch. That one was like, admittedly, right on the buffer of the referee saying, "Hey, break." So it's kind of late. He gets a warning for hitting on the head rather than the ladder, but look at that. That was so good. He throws a right hand. Let's actually just get back all the way. And we'll go slow. Standing in front of me, throws right hand. Lands. Not a huge shot. Rolls Danny's counter. Shifts. Throws a left, like a left hook, and hits Danny right on the chin while Danny is hitting him in the leg. Boom. Rolls. Left right on the chin. And Danny hits him right in the leg. Just great boxing from Golovkin. Doesn't control him like he should have at the end right there. And kind of gets punched in the back of the head. If Danny was a better athlete, he'd have been able to make that a knuckle punch on the chin. Oh man, and look at that. Look at how crazy this is. This is how much better of a fighter that Golovkin is here. So Danny throws like a jab kind of thing at Golovkin and starts to turn and pivot and take an angle on Golovkin. And Golovkin sees it coming, catches him with a left uppercut while he's pivoting too, beats him to the pivot, jab for control. He misses his jab, but Danny lands. He went through all that trouble to try and land this punch. Boom. Golovkin beats him to the pivot, and then he hits him kind of in the armpit with a left hook. Just so much phenomenally better of a fighter than Danny Jacobs, and it's really on display here. And Danny eats an uppercut for his trouble there. Good right hand counter. Oh, we'll get it back into normal speed. Sorry about that. Controlling him with the jab. And when he throws it, the little cross thing, a jab again, setting up his punches, and like right there, boom, misses that, and then circles out, right? Why wasn't he doing this in the last round? Well, I mean, that wasn't a great argument for responsible defense, but the rest of this round has been really good by Triple G, except for right there too. Right there, even though he doesn't land this punch, right? It's like it's just short of landing. Look at how much better Golovkin's eyes are and how he knows how to watch the fight than Danny Jacobs. Danny Jacobs spent so many of the early rounds missing all his counter punches that you can just tell that he just doesn't see things as well as Golovkin does. Were those? Was that? I mean, maybe one of those counted as a punch. We'll watch it one more time. No, it won't. It wasn't. It was a lot of slapping. Danny's not really landing any punches. Just some good work from Golovkin. Now this part right here, I thought was kind of interesting how they kind of just body up, and you can tell that Golovkin is waiting for him. He's the one that's in punching position. He's actually got Danny's glove pinned down right there. So maybe some of those times that Danny was kind of coming alive in the other rounds, Golovkin was just giving him an opportunity to throw punches so that he could counter him. That's a definite possibility. Now right there, a right hand, out of position, controls him with his right hand again, throws and touches him with a hook, but it stops Danny from being able to return fire, and that's not a lot of energy. It's not a taxing technique. Right there again, right hand, hook, circles out with control, and Danny's not able to follow up, even though he desperately wanted to. Golovkin kind of eats a hook there while they're turning, but right there again, he doesn't want Danny to close the distance this time, controls him with his forearm, and then throws a right, and then they kind of tie up. But these are really simple techniques for Golovkin, and who knows why exactly Golovkin didn't utilize them to the fullest throughout those close, quote-unquote close rounds. Maybe it was because he wanted to bait him into throwing counter punches. Maybe he didn't want to shut Danny out because he wanted the fans to have an exciting fight. You have to admit that those rounds, 10 and 11, were really fun to watch. But if we're looking at this round in contrast to it, do you actually get the sense that Golovkin wasn't able to do this in the previous round or the one before that? I definitely don't. And I still think that there was a lot of skill in rounds 10 and 11, But I do refer to that kind of boxing as like ABC boxing. It's stuff you can basically learn at any gym you step into. Uh, then with enough experience, you start to look pretty good in there. It's all stuff that you just learn to do. Um, you don't have as much feinting, like no probing for offense. You just have people who are committing to every punch and kind of, oh, he throws a right hand. This is how you slip a right hand. This is how you roll a left hook. This is how. It's like, you know, everything that everyone learns as soon as they get to the gym, because it's so basic, but you can have really high level aspects of it, like you do in the amateurs, where you're not actually technically supposed to use like hand control. You're not supposed to control your opponent with your hand after you punch, or um, have your hands on your opponent unless you're punching them. You have much less probing for offense in the amateurs because every point matters. Um, but in contrast with the feigning and probing that has come from Golovkin in this fight, you really get to see how much of a landslide a real, like, consummate professional fighter like Golovkin, and the beating that he took, that he put on Danny. The difference between like someone who was a good amateur and someone who was just a great fighter, and you really get to find that out just like Danny did. Um, I do think that Danny's going to come out of this being a much better fighter, um, but maybe if Golovkin didn't take the brakes off, and kind of coast the 10 and 11 rounds, um, he could have got a stoppage, and made Danny look really bad. But as for scoring, I think in particular throughout these 12 rounds, I was very lenient on Danny. Um, there were a lot of shots that were like cuffing or slapping or like hitting with parts of the glove that are not the scoring knuckles, that in real time are hard to see and can be easily confused with the scoring blow, but actually aren't. So I kind of wanted to have my scoring criteria for this be how you might score it reasonably, for like maybe a novice fan, or like a someone who's just not super experienced at watching fights. Like, to be fair, even watching it live myself, I sometimes have a difficult time separating how I feel about a round versus what's actually going on. And that's why you do these film studies, regardless of like who you thought won or whether you like the fight or not. You go back and you watch it and you be like, oh, this is really interesting. You always get to learn really interesting things. But a lot of the shots that I gave throughout the course of this film study, for Danny, weren't actually legal blows. Um, some shots that he landed that are considered power, but because they're not landing flush with the knuckles, don't actually have any power. Which is another reason why, maybe Golovkin and his lack of control on Danny in the 10 and 11 rounds, um, just allowed him to coast, because Danny just wasn't able to land solid shots for most of the fight. I do think that the scores I gave for each round are very reasonable, like I said, for live viewing. But when reviewing a fight, we're much more able to see what really happened. And in this case, we can see that while Danny did a lot of flashy punching, he was very rarely able to land anything with any power on it, and that Golovkin dominated really every aspect of the fight that he cared to. Um, I am really curious, to see where Golovkin goes from here. Um, Fighting someone like Canelo, or if he fights Billy Joe Saunders. Um, and I'll do some film study on Canelo if that fight happens, to see, to show you guys just what level fighter he is, because there are a lot of really good things that he does, but there are also a lot of things that he does um, very poorly in the ring. And while they think that Golovkin was kind of exposed, I think he might have just been, exposing himself. Um, but for the fans, not necessarily for Canelo or Billy Joe Saunders or whoever. But anyway, I hope you guys liked the series. Um, I'll do my best to get the other videos back up as soon as possible. They were recently taken down by YouTube for copyright, but I'll see what I can do about getting them back. Like, comment, and subscribe. Um, and I'll be starting my next video series on a new fight very shortly. All right, thanks, guys.